Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show on a day that I could not be more happy. If there's just really no possible way, because as you may know on this program, I am a very, very big fan of Salvador Dali, and I am very thrilled to have someone who knows him on a very personal, or I should say knew him on a very personal level, Madame Christine Argillett.
Thank you for inviting me.
I am so thrilled you're here. I am excited to talk to you about your stories of the time with Salvador. And I suppose we should start with the relationship with your father, because that's where this all begins. Could you tell us that?
Yes, my father was Dali's publisher and friend for more than 40 years. This relationship was very special. They were going to happenings, they were preparing big shows together. And my father started to publish Dali really in a very active way, I would say in the 50s. He did it before the Second World War, but this war was really a separation between artists and publishers. In that time, Dali came to the US. My father stayed in France. And when they reconnected, my father had such a passion for Dali's work that he put aside the other artists he was working with, artists of the Dada and Surrealist movement, and then worked with Dali intensively. It was a time where the fashion was more on abstraction, so Dali didn't have many publishers in that time, just one in New York and my father in Paris.
He wasn't doing what was popular at all at the time.
He was very popular, but not in the mood of the people who were looking for abstraction. So it was a time where my father could publish him a lot. And then this collection became unique for that reason, that nobody else had something like that later on. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Now, you come into the picture as a young girl, getting to spend time at his home. I've had the pleasure of being there in Spain once, and it is a wonderful place.
Yes.
I was right there where you literally grew up.
Yeah.
Talk about this.
The reason was that Dali had no clue about what a contract was. He had a contract with my father on, for instance, the Greek mythology that he should illustrate. Then he did some wonderful copper plates that will be presented here. And one day my father was called to Spain. He arrived and Dali was embarrassed and told him, well, you know, I had prepared 2 copper plates for you, but somebody came and wanted to buy something yesterday and I sold it. What? My father was absolutely furious, and Dali wouldn't understand why. He would tell my father, well, I can do a better one for you, and that was often true because there was this strong friendship, but my father was upset. So he decided that during all the coming years, we would go during July, August. I had no class in France, and we would go and stay next to Dali's house, where there is still a small inn, and we would stay there for the entire summer. And my father would get his copper plates. So it's how the collection came to a very nice number of more than 200 copper plates, which is the largest collection existing.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, you have arguably, the best collection out there of really most of his work, I would say at this point, right?
In
when
that
you look at
field
it as a whole.
of works on paper, sketches, watercolors, Aubusson tapestry, hand-woven in France in Aubusson. These are mostly the works we have. And they are very interesting because we know usually the paintings. The paintings are very slowly thought and reflecting and composed with the golden ratio and the you know. And when those works are much more spontaneous and show a part of Dali's character and his spontaneity in the work that we don't know usually, which is interesting,
I'll say, and another part of this that I find interesting, I have to ask you about. Dali is a character, or was much a character, almost put on a little bit, sort of almost contrived in some sense, right?
Yeah,
kind of really controlling what people thought about him. Would you say that is right, or at least?
I wouldn't say controlling, because he was always very spontaneous.
Right. But he seemed to master the ability to get people's interest in him. Is that?
Yeah, very much so. But he was an extremely shy guy. guy, and when he was on TV or on radio, he would overdo, like shy people. So it was a little bit frightening for my father sometimes to think, where is he going to land? But he was so well read, he would land somewhere a very interesting way. But he wanted to surprise people and surprise himself first. So that would give him another idea for another work. He was very imaginative and very creative.
How old were you when you were living there? You said 5, is that right? You started?
Between my age of 5 and my age of 17, 18, we would spend all the summers there. So it was very interesting.
That's a time when you're being molded yourself. Did Dali have a lot to do with who you became?
I would say that his sense of freedom was extremely strong and marked my life all the way. I think, yeah. The fact that he could use something in a different way than it was intended for instance, you would have in his living room an ashtray that was going between people. In that time people were smoking a lot. And then you would notice a silver stick, and then it was attached to a real live turtle. And then the turtle would go and bring the ashtray to people. It was a very simple thing, but everything was like that at his home. So you had always this sense that things could be different and that you could re-envision life in another way.
That takes us right to these pieces then. Could we say, we have just a few minutes and I want to talk about each thing just for a moment. Can you tell us some detail about each of these?
Well, all these are works of the 60s that we have chosen, which are very joyful, I would say. Dali was playing a lot. Here, for instance, he's playing with himself. He's here as a woman. You don't notice it immediately. If you come closer to the work, you will see his mustache and this very elegant woman with the long boots. But it's Dali himself here. So there is a sense of a beautiful movement. You see this movement is incredible. And there is this spontaneity, this exaggeration that he would use. And the fact that this techniques doesn't allow any change, because when you etch on a copper plate, you cannot cancel a line.
Right.
So it reveals,
once it's there, it's done.
Yes, it reveals very much of his capacity as an artist, drawing in a wonderful way. And many artists didn't etch that way. He is fabulous.
This is different because they come in black and white, right? He painted over them. Is that my understanding of how this works?
Yes, it's what he decided to do. This is a very interesting work because it's a caricature of the bullfight. And this was inspired by Picasso's bullfights that Dali, quote, Dalinized. So he introduced this surrealistic giraffe, burning giraffe, and he didn't like those bullfights. He would find them very wild and barbaric. So the bull is transformed into Dali. You see Dali in the center. Then you see the audience with the horns. So the most animalistic is not the bull, but it's becoming the audience. And he was very shocked by the fact that the priest would come and bless the scene before the game. He would say that this was a very prehistorical game. So there is all this background and this very caricatural way of showing things.
The final piece here.
And this is a very sweet, charming piece, which is a unique drawing, magnificent drawing that he did as an illustration of a poem by Ronsard, who was a French poet of the Renaissance. So this is very sweet and very beautiful. It's a project for an etching that came later on, a few months later, and I think it shows the diversity of his work. He could be extremely sweet, he could be more, I would say more, not aggressive, but strong in his drawing, and it could be very different. So that's the quality he had, to be very diverse.
To grow up with that must have been such an amazing experience, and
Yeah.
I know there are so many other stories you could share with us, and I wish we could do this for an hour because there's so much more that I want to talk about. But everyone has this chance to hear some of these stories from you this weekend.
Yes, people can come today, Friday, from 7 to 9. I'll be there. I'll present the collection.
Yep.
Then
This is at Old Towne Gallery today.
Old Towne Gallery on Main Street. Then tomorrow from 11 to 1, and then from 7 to 9 again. And even on Sunday from 1 to 3.
Wow.
So I'll be there, I'll answer questions, I'll present the collection, and I hope you enjoy it and come.
I don't see how you couldn't enjoy it. I want to thank you so very much for coming and spending some
Thank
time with
you.
me.
Thank
It's Madame
you.
Christine Argillett. You would have your chance to meet her this weekend at the Old Towne Gallery. Thanks to my friend Colby Larson as well for making all of this possible, for bringing Salvador Dali right to our studio, and such a unique connection to him with Madame Christine Argillett. We'll be back with more here on the Mountain Morning Show right after these messages.